Alright, I just received this question. It's a good question. I'm going to share the question. This is a general question, not personal, so hopefully the guy is okay with me sharing it word for word. It says, do you think traditional styles of Kung Fu have fallen behind in regards to hand-to-hand combat? He says, I ask because karate has kumite, Muay Thai has their fighting, Taekwondo matches are in the Olympics, Judo also, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu hold competitions. They all compete to hone their skills. However, Kung Fu doesn't do any of these. This is not a knock to Kung Fu at all, just a query. I personally practice a lot of Muay Thai and Muay Boran, but I do love and respect all martial arts. Alright, so my answer to that is Kung Fu, there's a reason why there's no competitions, is because it's the most scientific. If you're talking about combat without guns, hand-to-hand combat without guns is all unrealistic in my eyes, because this world, the violence is with gun violence. That's why the law is so focused on gun laws and everything. So everything, no matter what it is, it's basically not real combat. It's a simulated just fight experience for fun. But Kung Fu is the most scientific because Kung Fu is the one that that holds the most integrity to not give in to rules, to games. Because everything that you mentioned is a game. Olympics, it's called the Olympic Games, and every single game out there will always have safety, put into consideration because it's a competition for entertainment. It's not for survival. It's not. Now Kung Fu, they focus on survival. That's why Kung Fu is known for animal styles. That's why you hear about tiger claw, the snake. You hear about praying mantis. Kung Fu, they are known to mimic animals when they fight because they study and analyze animals. Because animals, they're the real deal. Like, they are fighting for survival. They can't even sleep at night because they'll get killed. So a lion, when you watch these videos, these lions are out to get food, and they're killing, and then these people are trying to these animals are trying to survive against these lions, these cows, these deers, whatever the case may be, these hyenas. They always have to be on the lookout. They have to have people watching their back at all times. And Kung Fu analyzes the animals because the animals are the absolute kings of unarmed combat. The only reason the humans can overcome the animals is because of their brain, and they use intelligence to fight the animals. So they will use weapons, they'll use guns, they'll use bombs, they'll use whatever to beat the animals. So this shows the value of intelligence. Now, Kung Fu analyzes the animals because hand-to-hand combat, that's the absolute farthest you could take it, where you're actually killing, and that's what you want to analyze when you analyze what is truly effective. So Kung Fu would study animals. Kung Fu would also study like real violence that would happen where there's death. It's not organized stuff where it's a boxing match and then you're just watching, that. Everything, every single other thing that you mentioned, it's all making things safer. Kung Fu does not make things safer when it comes to unarmed combat. They study and analyze the science of making things more deadly. So Kung Fu is known for like iron fist. They don't use gloves. They train their fists to turn their fists into pretty much like a natural brass knuckle. Kung Fu is known to be like tiger claw, where their grip is so strong that they could probably crush a person's throat in an instant. They could blind somebody with their grip. Kung Fu, is known to to train every single part of the body to be strong, you know, for lethalness in combat. So it's a science, you know, and there's no really the only way that you could test the science is through like safe ways of like basically like what a scientist would do, you know. You would set up sparring and you would analyze certain techniques to see what is most effective. It's not for competitive purposes, you know, it's for learning purposes. So Kung Fu approaches it from a scientific standpoint, you know. And then other styles like Muay Thai and Judo and Jiu-Jitsu and all these other styles that compete, they are turning the science into a game, so then they could gain recognition over it, gain popularity, make money from it. So all of it is like that. So as soon as you take the bare fist and you put a glove on it, it becomes less real, less scientific, less of the way real combat would be out in the streets. You know, taking it to the extreme, an example would be now you're adding in weapons. Kung Fu is all about weapons too. I mean, you look at the Shaolin monks, they work with, they're known for the bow staff. Bruce Lee was using a lot of the nunchucks. They use a lot of like broadswords as well. I mean, they are taking, the traditional Kung Fu is using, they are trained for military tactics. These techniques are used in war to kill. Now, when you take away all the weapons and you say, okay, no weapons are allowed, and then you implement rules, and then you say, oh, you know, you gotta wear gloves, you gotta wear mouth protectors, you gotta wear drone protectors, you can't hit at this area, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't kill the person that you're fighting. That's already a huge indication that this is not the reality of how real combat is. You would, in order to discover the reality of how real fighting is, you would have to conduct it. If it's going to be a real situation, it's got to be something that's filmed where it's on the streets or it's inside, and then it's something where there's no referees, there's no police, it's just basically, it could end in death. So basically anything that you see out in the videos where the result was death, that is worth analyzing for a Kung Fu artist in order to determine what is the most effective method of survival. Because death is ultimately symbolizing, hey, this is not a game. This is for survival. This is protecting your life from great danger. So when you're talking about police, for example, they are not playing a game. They're there, you know, they'll shoot to kill. And they will do it. Okay, and these people that have guns, no matter be a gangbanger or no matter be an armed civilian, or whoever's armed, these people that have guns, they will shoot to kill. Or there might be accidental misfires, there may be suicides. I mean, anytime where there's death involved, you know that this is real. And that's what's being analyzed right now. So Kung Fu analyzes like survival against death. Okay, that is not the same as winning a game, getting a trophy, getting the golden gloves, getting a belt, winning a belt, accumulating points in whatever tournament. That is all not relevant to the science behind surviving real deadly encounters. Okay, I mean, when you study videos online, because there's so many videos circulated on YouTube, start typing in, you know, shootings, killings, death, stabbings, and you'll see, you know, like videos popping up where, I mean, I saw one where, you know, the people are outside of a train station, and then they're wrestling on the ground doing like this jiu-jitsu stuff, and then one of the guys pulls out a knife and just stabs the other guy to death in front of everybody. That's the reality of things that need to be studied for survival. There's other ones where people just get shot and killed right on camera. Police officers getting shot and killed. Officers shooting and killing other people. These are the things that are being analyzed by people that study Kung Fu. And if it's not involving guns, if it's not involving knives, and it's involving real fights on the streets where the potential for death is great. It's not something that's organized and controlled and, you know, mass produced for everybody as for a source of entertainment. You know, so now the real Kung Fu back in the days, it wouldn't be competitions that they would conduct. It'd be like real street violence. So it'd be like Kung Fu schools that are basically like almost like gangs. And then rather than shooting and kill each other with guns like how they do it here in America, they would go around and challenge each other, other schools, and fight like how gangs would fight. They would just literally just fight each other. And people would end up in the hospital. Some people might die, or whatever the case may be. Basically, that's how they would do it. That's what's keeping it. That's what's keeping it real. Like they're analyzing. Okay, we training these techniques, and then now we're gonna go in a real street fight to see if it actually works. That is like the real analyzation of what works and what doesn't. You know, but it's not a safe way, it's not a smart way, it's not an intelligent way, but that's how they would used to do it in the past. A safer way would be somebody like a Bruce Lee or myself who would conduct these sparring arrangements and simulate a real fight to the best of your ability to analyze the techniques in a controlled environment. It's not a competition, it's a learning experiment, you know, to figure out, to decide what is the most effective methods, you know. So that is the difference, and really Kung Fu is like known to not involve, you know, be involved in these competitions, because that's what sets it apart from everything else. Because everybody, every other style, they pretty much give in to the competition, and then they turn something pure into something unpure. But Kung Fu is the one who kind of holds up to its integrity and like, no, you know, we're not gonna corrupt this art. We're going to keep it pure. And I don't care about your belts. I don't care about your certifications. I don't care about the fame and the money. But I'm gonna keep this art pure, and I'll find another way to make money. So you see a lot of Kung Fu people that really train in the real Kung Fu. They don't make money, they don't really make a living off of teaching Kung Fu. They make a living doing something else. They're not sacrificing the art to corrupt it in order to, you know, make a living from it. Whereas you got Muay Boran, for example, which from what my understanding is more of the authentic art, and then it gets corrupted and turned into Muay Thai in order to generate profit, to make money. And Taekwondo is the same thing. The original Taekwondo is more for like military tactics and for survival. The corrupted Taekwondo is the Olympic Taekwondo. You know, so everything gets corrupted, you know, for profit. Real fighting gets turned into boxing because boxing is being used as a source of entertainment to make money. It's all just a game. It's like football is not real life. Football is just a way of making money. Same as boxing. You know, like these are all ways of figuring out how to make money. Olympic wrestling gets turned into WrestleMania because Olympic wrestling just is not entertaining enough for people to want to pay money to watch that. So they turn it into WrestleMania to make money. Okay? If mass media could find a way to profit off of real death, they would. But the government and the people know that, hey, you know, this is not humane, so they're not going to allow, ultimate fighting championships or whatever the case may be to be conducted in the real life streets where it ends in real death with weapons and everything. They're not going to allow that because it's not humane. So then they have to tone it down in order to get it accepted and approved by the government in order to turn it into entertainment industry to profit. This impurifies the science of real combat. You know, so animals are not bound by these restrictions. Animals just kill when they want to kill. An eagle is going to kill when he wants to kill. A lion will kill when he wants to kill. A hyena will kill when he wants to kill. The animals are not bound. A shark could kill when he wants to kill. They're not bound by the laws of restriction. And Kung Fu is, they study the laws of nature. They don't study these man-made laws. They study the laws of nature. The Tao Te Ching is all about connecting with the source, connecting with nature. So when you study the science of real combat, you study nature and you study real death. So like analyzing and studying like real deadly encounters, like, you know, all these mass shootings that are going on. This is reality. But what's entertainment is, you know, the movies out of Hollywood. You know, boxing, wrestling, all sports. They're all sources of entertainment. These video games, Call of Duty, I mean, Mortal Kombat X, these are all sources of entertainment. But anytime you see real death, that is not a source of entertainment. That is basically real life and real dealing with real confrontations and figuring out scientifically what is, you know, the most effective way to survive whatever situation. So for another example is just, you know, not too long ago, Suge Knight got put in jail because he ran over and killed some guy. He claimed that the guy was, you know, that had a gun and he was coming after him, and then Suge Knight was in the car, and you literally see it in the video. Suge Knight just runs him over with the car. That's another example of real death that needs to be analyzed. People that use cars as weapons. And then all these shootings that are going on. Stabbings. You know. Another example, you know, this guy's sleeping in the room with his girlfriend, and then the ex-boyfriend comes in and kills both of them, stabs both of them to death in the middle of the morning. That's another example of real death. Real situations. This didn't occur in a boxing ring. This didn't occur in a cage. This is occurring in everyday life, you know, in these situations. You know, you might get attacked out there in the streets. You know, somebody cuts you off, and then you cut somebody off to get angry, and then you get attacked. You might be attacked in the bus. You might be attacked in the train. These are situations dealing with real violence that you need to learn how to protect yourself. And you're not going to have your mouth guard. You're not going to have your gloves. You're not going to have the referee standing by waiting for you to tap out. I mean, these are situations dealing with real life, you know, and if you want to analyze the true weight of survival, you know, analyze these videos involving death. Read the newspapers, because all the time you'll see newspapers broadcasting, you know, how somebody died. You're standing around the corner, all of a sudden a drive-by shooting happens. You know, these are the things that need to be analyzed. In Kung Fu, they're known to analyze the animals because they keep it real. They're talking about real death. Tupac is talking about real death. He got shot 5 times, he survived, and then he ended up getting shot again, and then he ends up dying. That's keeping it real. Tupac is more of a representation of real survival more than any of these combat sport people. Bruce Lee, keeping it real. He's really dead. Bruce Lee really died. Brandon Lee, his son, really died. That's keeping it real. Martin Luther King Jr. got shot down. He really died. John F. Kennedy got sniped. He really died. You know, like, real death. That's keeping it real. You know, but, you know, somebody like Muhammad Ali, you know, going into the boxing ring, that's not real combat. I mean, he's still living now, but that's not real combat. You know, There's another heavyweight person who one of the guys who beat Ali towards the end of his career. You know, he, a former heavyweight champion, he ended up getting murdered by two of his relatives. You know, they hit him in the head with a pipe or something like that, and he died. That's real. You know, another former, you know, boxing champion got robbed at gunpoint, and he got shot and killed. That's real. You know, Mayweather might be very, very rich, but what he does is not real. You can't claim the real. You'll see videos right now. You type it in, Mayweather bodyguards. You'll see walking on the streets, Mayweather has like 5 really huge bodyguards surrounding him everywhere he goes. Huge bodyguards surrounding him everywhere he goes. Here, he's supposed to be the best boxer, one of the best boxers in the world, but why does he need bodyguards? Because what's real is certainly very different than what is presented within that boxing ring, within that cage. None of that stuff is real. None of it. It's all a game. It's a way of entertainment. It's a way of enhancing and boosting your ego. You know, and Kung Fu is not about that. Kung Fu is about the real. You know, you might make more money as a professional boxer. Mayweather is way much more richer than Bruce Lee ever was. But Mayweather can never claim that what he does is real, is more real than what Bruce Lee was doing. No, Bruce Lee might not have been as rich, but what he was doing was real. It was the real stuff. Like, it was the real science of combat with no rules. Like, strictly survival. You know, with minus the firearms, because that's the only thing that Bruce Lee didn't really incorporate in his expression. And that is the most scientific you could get without the use of firearms, was pretty much Bruce Lee's method. And then Wing Chun is pretty much the same thing. Wing Chun, they're dealing with bare fists. Combat is not with wearing all this equipment and stuff. Same thing with Choi Li Fut, same thing with Hung Gar, same thing with Praying Mantis. I mean, Shaolin Kung Fu too. These are all styles and expression that are just with the body. You're just natural body. There's none of this protective stuff going on. All this stuff is designed to kill. And how are you supposed to compete with things that are designed to kill? You can't really compete with it, but you could experiment with it. You could analyze it in controlled environments, controlled scenarios, in order to enhance your understanding and your skill. It's a science experiment. It's not a competitive game. So that's the difference. You know, what's more real than any of the things that this person even mentioned, and this is exactly what Bruce Lee was studying before he even died, is fencing. So if you want to keep it real, then go into fencing and see how good you are at fencing. Because they're actually using a weapon, and if that was a real sword, I mean, you're talking about real death. Fencing is a lot more realistic than boxing ever will be, than cage fighting ever will be, than Muay Thai ever will be. That's going more into the realm of real. Bruce Lee was heading towards the real and everything that he was doing. You know, and that's why he was studying fencing right before he died. Because fencing is the way that you're dealing with real weapons right there. And fencing is the way of training and bettering yourself in a safe way in order to better your tactics within that realm, you know. And that's what Kung Fu, you know, that's what Kung Fu's about. You know, it's about training for health and safety, protecting your life, and training intelligently, you know. And competition is just, you know, is not intelligent, is not safe, you know. And there needs to be something that's apart from all this combat sports stuff. All this combat sports stuff is doing whatever they want to do. Kung Fu is the one that stands apart from all that and says, we're not going to be involved with any of that. But we are the most real because we study the real science. That's not bound by any of the rules that all these combat sport, because every single combat sport, even back in the gladiator times, there was always the rules. No, you could do everything, but no gouging of the eyes. It's just, it doesn't make sense. It's like you cannot tell an animal that's fighting for his life not to gouge, another animal's eyes. You cannot tell a woman that's being raped to not gouge her attacker's, her rapist's eyes. I mean, the simple fact of there being a rule that you cannot do this is already making it unreal. When real combat, there are no such rules. The law makes the rule, you're not allowed to kill. And then you got people going into schools, shooting up the schools and killing everybody. I mean, the reality is not bound by rules. The reality is what it is. And when things go down, you just need to respond to survive. And Kung Fu, it's about that. It's not about these games. And it's an art. It's an art. It's a science. So art and science, it's not a sport, it's not entertainment. Okay? If it's used as entertainment, you got people that practice Kung Fu like Bruce Lee, Jet Li, Jackie Chan, Donnie Yen. They're expressing it in film, for entertainment purposes. So they will do their best to illustrate the reality of how they feel the fighting situation would take place on the streets, but they're doing it in the realm of film. Now that's going to be more real than combat sport, because they're using their imagination in order to recreate like a fighting situation, for the purpose of film, in order to have you see closer to how things might go if it did actually happen on in real time. And there's a lot more that you could learn from these movies about the reality of real combat than you ever will learn from combat sport. So another example is like a movie that has nothing to do with martial arts, but it keeps it real, is like a movie like Godfather or Goodfellas. I mean, there's these movies that are like based off of imagination, but they're teaching you and showing you these are some of the things that happen in real time on the streets. And that's what keeps it real. That's more real than any of the combat sport crap that you ever see. A movie like Godfather, a movie like Menace to Society will be more real than any boxing match you'll ever see in your entire life. Because that's how it really is. It's not about putting on gloves, going for 3 minutes, 12 rounds, no kicking, no headbutting, no biting, no eye gouging, no tackling, no weapons. I mean, it's just, all it is just it's an ego enhancement for these boxers. And it's not too different than just a bodybuilder who enhances his ego by lifting a lot of weights and he makes himself feel good. Or somebody that gets really good at basketball, enhances his ego because he's really good. It's no different. These boxers, these wrestlers, these football players, these cage fighters, they're not too different than the tennis player, the basketball player, the golfer. I mean, it's like, it's all a game. It's just that the basketball player and the golfer, they're just smarter because they're not sacrificing their health to make the money. They're doing something healthier for their bodies to make the money. Even Mayweather, like I said, has all this money and he's undefeated, but then he's surrounded by 5 bodyguards. Why? If you're so, indestructible, why are you being surrounded by 5 bodyguards? Because real life is not the same as what they present to you in combat sport, and this one-on-one fighting is absolutely unreal too. This one-on-one fair fighting, same weight class, same gender, same skill level. No, there's no such thing. In real life, It could be 10 against 1, 20 against 1, 4 against 1. Weapons could be introduced. I mean, anything could happen out there. A man beats on a woman, 5 men beat on 1 woman. Anything could happen out there. So real life is just not the same as what's being presented in combat sports. So people that practice Kung Fu, they know the stupidity of all this stuff. It has no relevance to what's real. So that's why, and because Kung Fu doesn't involve themselves in those competitions, is what keeps it the most authentic, and that's the way that I see it.